All right, so puzzle mats in Houdini, specifically in Karma. I'm going to run you through a quick little tutorial on how I've used them in a recent project. And if you're thinking, what the bloody hell is a puzzle mat anyway? I've linked a little tutorial down in the description below just to, give you an understanding on what it is and when you might want to use it. All right, so I've got my scene here, and I've got the word puzzle mats written here, cleverly, right? And I've got some puzzle pieces, also clever, and a little background. And I want to separate them into the different channels. And I need to create some attributes to do that. And, well, it's not attributes. I actually need to create Primvars, which is USD speak or Solaris speak for attributes anyway. So to do that, to create these attributes, I'm going to need to use a wrangle. And yes, I'm going to need to use a little bit of X, but don't worry, I said it was copy-pasty. And it is. So once you've sort of set this up, you're probably going to be ready to fire for a lot longer. So pretty much, firstly, I need to create the actual first puzzle mat to what it's named and create the variable, if you will. And in Solaris, how you do that is you come into our little vex expression here, and I'm just going to type in USD underscore add Primvar, and it comes up there. You can click it. Can be nice and easy. Then if I do an opening bracket, it's going to give me a heap of help, which is always great inside of Houdini. I love that. But essentially what I want to do, I want to start with 0. And that just means like your first input that it's all coming through here. And then I'm going to go comma. And then I'm going to go in brackets, just this dash, just sort of meaning everything that's coming through it. So the first one's looking at what channel of the wrangles coming in. Then it's like, well, in USD speak, down here, I've got this little dash. So if you don't have that dash in your scene, you won't need to do it. I mean, you can also do a star, and you're very welcome to do a star if you like, but I just like to make it simple for me and keep it like this because I know what's going on, if that makes sense. And then I get to give it a name. So I might call it puzzle. Very clever, right? And then the next one is type. And look, it's pretty easy. I just tend to just type in type. It doesn't really matter. The next one, I believe. I don't think it has any... it doesn't really give much value. I'm sure there's a reason. I just don't know it. So now I've created it. I've created the Primvar. It's coming in, and it's called Puzzle Mat. That's its name. Now, I need to set it to something. If I zoom out here and come up here, we can see we have my instancer, which is all these lovely puzzle pieces. I have the text and I have the floor, and they're all different things. Like one's a SOP import, one's an instanced import thing, and the other's like just a SOP create. And the cool thing in Houdini and Solaris, we have our tree here, but we also have our names. And I've named these things pretty specifically, just to help me. Floor, points, puzzle instancer, and text. And it's all under the geo, I guess, drop-down header. I never know what to call these things. But anyway, that will become important in a second. Well, not even in a second, right now. So I'm going to add another layer to this, or another bit that I'm going to add, and I'm going to go USD set Primvar. And now this is, the point of this is I'm going to be applying the Primvar to some primitives, or to some geometry, essentially. And this is kind of as simple as you would in an attribute give something a color, if you will. So I'm going to open these brackets. It kind of tells you what it wants. It wants the stage handle, which is going to be 0 again. String path. This will become more important because this will direct us. And then it wants a string name and type value. So 0 again, good measure. And then in brackets, I just like to just chuck some brackets there that are empty, meaning it's doing nothing. And then I'll go next and I'll call this puzzle mat. Pretty easy, right? It just needs to reference the one up here. And if I change this, and I might, to PuzzleMat01, and then change this to PuzzleMat01, and then going to break that bit. And then I'm going to give it a value. Now we have to create some color using a vector, essentially. And if you know your vector math or just your vectors well, we just need to go 1, 0, 0 for red. Now, when I close this, nothing's going to happen because it's not giving it to anything. Now, you can go ahead and type this out like bracket and blah, blah, blah. Easy way to do it. And I'm doing this for the text, is I can come here to text and then drag that in those brackets. And it's just going to give me the file path, essentially, which is, I guess, the path of where that text lives in our object or scene graph path. Scene graph path. Say that heaps of times. We've created it. We've created our first puzzle mat, but you're thinking, like, where is it? What's happening? And, I mean, nothing's going to happen yet. If I open up, this is where our render passes will be. There's nothing here. There's a sea, there's depth, all the regular stuff's here. So what we need to do is come to our render settings, and we need to actually, well, create them in the render settings. And this is actually pretty easy. So we've got to go to image output here, and then AOV renderVars. Pretty straightforward. Scroll down here, we have our beauty and all that jazz. What we want to do is create extra renderVars. And I create one. Cool. Exciting, you're probably thinking, right? And in the name, I mean, you have all these different things you can create down here. But we just want to create our own one. And how you do that, you might wonder. We name it something. And I like to keep the name exactly like I did here. The name itself doesn't have to be that. The name is what's going to be represented in here when we create it. So I'm just going to give it PuzzleMat01. And then it's going to open up all these other things. The format, well, it's color 3. And data type color 3. Source type is Primvar. And then in the source name, this is actually important. This is what we named our Primvar back up here, which is PuzzleMat01. So that has to match. And now when I come here, we're going to see PuzzleMat01. You can see our text is red there. And if I went back here and changed this to 1 and this to 1, it would essentially be creating a full-on alpha mat, which is just white. But let's take that back to 0. And let's do what we were planning to do, which is red channel for our text, the blue channel, or our green channel, sorry, for our puzzle pieces, and our blue channel for the background. So essentially, just going to copy paste this. We've already set it up at the top, so we don't need to worry. Come down here, and I'm going to change this to green. I always forget RGBs. I always have to remind myself, with those sort of things. It's like I don't know if you guys had this, but like to remember the north, east, south thing, it was never eat soggy wheat bix, which was like a cereal in Australia. All you American people are probably like, what are you talking about? And understandably so. Now I want the puzzle instancer to be our neat little thing. Already working, green. And now you can imagine what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy and paste this again. And you notice all I'm changing is its direction, like where it's pointing at. And also the color, like the vector color. And now I'm going to delete what's in there currently. And then, you've guessed it, I'm putting the floor or the background in there. And boom, Bob's your uncle. There you go. We've got all the colors here. And then if I change this back to my color channel, it's there. And that's going to render out with an EXR if you're to render out with EXRs, essentially. Pretty straightforward, right? That's the main bit here. If you just want to do this inside of Solaris, that's kind of it. But if you want to be able to do this stuff before you even get into Solaris, sometimes you might want to do this in the SOP context before. And if you look here, my text is just one mesh. I've got some groups here, but that doesn't work. I've just got a mesh. I could separate these out separately and then apply mesh 0 to be you know, let's just say red and then mesh 2, which might be this word, to be green or whatever. But let's just say we don't have that luxury and you have like an object that's got like 50 million different things and you want to specifically target them, and it's so much easier to target in the SOP level. Well, how you might do that is I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to comment out these two. So all we're looking at is this guy. And actually, in fact, I'm going to comment out that as well because I don't want it doing anything. Let's go back to the SOP context to where my text is. Here it is. And I've created one already here. But let's do this from scratch. So if I come here, puzzle, and if I come here, mats. Now you can see these aren't in the right spot because I did stuff after in the chain, but let's just do it nice and easy at the top. So let's go attribute create, put that in there. Now I need to call this PuzzleMat01. Sorry, I just copied about 1 billion things in there. I need to call this PuzzleMat01, or if I want to call it PuzzleMat02, actually, let's call it PuzzleMat02, and I'll show you how we might solve that later down the path. Let's go PuzzleMat02, and we want this to be float, and let's go color. Now, we want the value to be 1, because that's going to be green. And I mean, if I come here, I need to change size to 3, just because it's, so I got PuzzleMat. You can see it's already working here in my attributes. And now I can pretty much copy that over to here. But I want it to be like this. So when I come here, we now have PuzzleMat, and some are, you know, red, some are blue. Pretty straightforward stuff. And as we said, it's called PuzzleMat02. And I just created an attribute that did this, which is quite simple and easy to do inside of SOPs. And now if I come back to LOPs, and this is just a import here, I'm just going to restart render. And, you know, we've got PuzzleMat01. Because it is a SOP import, it's just automatically importing all the time, which has its own problems. But, you know, you might need to re-export this to USD if you're doing it a different way. But essentially what we need to do is I need to create another one. Just because I called it PuzzleMat02. And I just call it PuzzleMat02. It's just setting that Primvar up for use later if I need to. Then I can come to Karma render settings. And if we want, I can actually leave all this stuff working. So when we come here, we have PuzzleMat01, sick. And then it's like, all right, well, let's create another one that's called. And just to prove that this is meaningless, we can call this PuzzMan. I don't know why I'd call it PuzzMan, but it sounds interesting. Color 3 on that one. We're going to turn that into Primvar. And then we know this guy has the attribute of PuzzleMat02. And then if I come back in here, we have PuzzMan. We also have PuzzleMat01 and color. Let's go to PuzzMan. Look at that. We got red on the puzzle, green on the mat. It works. And now if you're going to render that bad boy out, if you need to render that guy out, I've got this guy as a, you know, EXR going here. And this is only going to work with an EXR. So just be mindful of that, essentially. And then you can just render that guy to disk. And when you're in your compositing software, you've got a red, green, and blue channel. And in this case, we have a PuzzleMan01 and we have a PuzzMan. And you can use those two as separate passes.